This week on Riding with the Pastor, we have Miss Bobbie Sue Pate. Miss Bobbie Sue, you doing okay today?
I am.
You ready to ride?
Right.
All right, let's go. Miss Bobbie Sue is a longtime member of our church, and so I look forward to riding with her today. So, Miss Bobbie Sue, you've watched the videos and you kind of know how this works. So I'm going to start off with I'm going to give you two phrases, two words. You tell me which one you like the best, okay?
All right.
All right, you ready? Alabama, Auburn.
Both, unless they're playing each other, then I'm for Auburn.
Okay, good. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Tea. Do you prefer to fly or drive?
Drive.
Drive, okay. Cat or dog?
Dog.
Do you have any dogs?
No.
No dogs?
I really like my house without them.
Okay. Mountain or beach?
Mountain.
Mountain. All right, here's a good one. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Coke. I don't think I've had anybody say Pepsi yet. Morning or night?
Both, but I'm a night owl.
Are you? Okay, didn't know that. Okay, toilet paper, over or under?
Definitely over.
I don't think I've had anybody say under either. Do you prefer Apple or Android?
I have a new Apple, so I guess I prefer that.
Okay, you're an Apple kind of gal. All right, last one. Text or talk?
Talk.
Talk. Okay. So I have some questions I'm going to ask you just so that people can get to know more about you.
Okay.
And so first I would like to ask you to kind of share with us about your family, your children, your grandchildren. Just tell us about them.
Okay. I have a daughter and two sons, and my daughter lives in Montgomery, and she has two children, and her oldest child has my great-grandchildren. So both her children are married, and I have two great-grandchildren. I have my middle son lives up at Rocky Head, my oldest son, middle child. And he's not married. We're still praying for him a wife. And my youngest son lives in Tuscaloosa, and he and his wife have 6 children.
Wow. Okay.
And he is a pastor of a church in Tuscaloosa.
Okay. Good. So, will you share with us just a little bit about your testimony?
Okay. Well, I was actually carried to Ozark Baptist Church as a little child by my aunt and uncle.
Okay.
And I went to Sunday school there, and I came to the point, I already knew how to pray, and I knew about God for my parents, particularly my mother and my grandmother. But when I got about 12 years old, I went to my dad, and he was of another persuasion, and at the point didn't know any difference. So when I told him I wanted to make a public profession of faith, he said, well, you don't go down there and join that church and make a fool out of yourself. You try to live it first. And so I was 12 years old, and I tried to live it. And I would visit my aunt and uncle up in the country every year when they had revival, and they always asked me to sing. So I had sung on the first night, and I think my aunt must have told the evangelist and the pastor about me. So the Monday after the first night of the revival, the Monday afternoon, the evangelist and the pastor came to visit me at my aunt's house and wanted to present the plan of salvation to me. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't be saved. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I've tried to live it and I can't. So they explained to me that I didn't have to live it first.
Right.
That I would come to God just as I am and accept Him as my Savior, which I really had already done, but I made a public profession of faith. And that night at this church I was visiting, when they sang the song Just As I Am, I thought it was just for me. So I walked forward and made a profession of faith. And then my parents, who weren't churched at the time, talked to the pastor at Ozark Baptist Church, and he told them I needed to come to Ozark and be baptized. So the next Sunday, I walked down the aisle at the old Ozark Baptist Church, and I had never seen anybody be baptized.
Really?
Until I was baptized. But God has been faithful all these years.
That's great.
And brought me back to Ozark Baptist Church in '61.
That's great. You've been here a long time. You've seen a lot of changes, haven't you?
I've been through lots of different staff members and pastors and so forth, and they've all played a special place in our church.
That's great. So you do like music. You talked about singing. So how did you get started in? You shared a little bit about that, but you do a lot of teaching and stuff now. So just kind of share with us about that.
Well, my grandmother, my dad's mother, was like an itinerant preacher, but she was an itinerant music teacher. She traveled from village to village out in the country and would spend the night in a community and teach piano to the kids who needed piano lessons and go on to the next community. And in the summertime particularly, she would teach these singing schools where they would go in a church and spend 2 weeks and teach them how to read music and sing notes. And my dad learned to do that from his mom. And my dad took me with him started taking me with him when I was in the 3rd grade to teach music schools. And then my dad and I would sing, and he played the guitar, and we would sing together when I was little. And then as I had siblings, they would join the group, and so our family became a singing family that traveled around and sang.
Is that right?
Different churches. I can remember that we would sometimes sing at one church on Sunday morning, and a different one on Sunday afternoon, and a different one on Sunday night. And I wanted so badly to be in a church and stay there, because I was doing what a lot of people thought was fun, and it was fun, but I've kind of grown up in music.
Right.
And as it happens, my children are musical too, and my son-in-law is a minister of music, and my grandson-in-law is a musician, and my youngest grandchild said, "You have to try out to be in our family. You've got to be a musician."
That's right.
So that's and then I became a music teacher.
Okay. And how long did you taught in the schools? Is that right?
I taught in the schools, and I stopped teaching. I really taught 5th grade for 2 years because I came to Ozark to be the high school choir director, and from college. And before the summer was over, they told me that the finance had been cut and they couldn't afford a music teacher. So I taught 5th grade.
Okay.
And then I went out and taught music at Fort Rucker. But Glenn and I had agreed. I got married in the meantime, and we agreed that I would be a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
So I stopped for several years, and then I was invited to come over to the Enterprise Junior College and teach voice lessons to the students there.
Okay.
And I did that for 5 years, and then started teaching at home.
Well, there you go. And you're still teaching?
I'm still teaching.
That's great. So obviously you've been involved in the music ministry at Ozark Baptist for a long, long time.
Yes, I've directed the music between ministers of music when they would leave. Lots of times.
So what would you say is your favorite hymn and why?
Oh my goodness. Whichever one I'm singing is my favorite almost, but I really love the hymn Like a River Glorious.
Okay.
And the chorus goes, "Stayed upon Jehovah, hearts are fully blessed."
Yes, ma'am.
Love that. Love the words of that.
All right. So in addition to being very musically talented and involved in the music ministry, you're also one of our Sunday school teachers. And I would like for you to share with us, what is your favorite book of the Bible to teach from?
Whichever one I'm teaching at the time. I think one of my favorite books in the Bible, though, is Isaiah.
Isaiah, okay.
But I was expecting you to ask me about the verse, and I was going to say...
Okay, what's your favorite verse?
Whichever one I'm teaching and reading at the time. But I do have a few. And
Okay.
one that has been pivotal in my life was Romans 12:1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto him, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Someone presented that verse to me as a teenager, and it was life-changing just to understand that God didn't want me to die for him. He wanted me to be a living sacrifice.
Okay, that's great. So, who would you say has had the greatest influence on your life as a Christian?
I think I would have to say, well, my grandparents, one grandmother particularly taught me how to pray, and another one taught me life lessons, but there was a lady in Enterprise named Miss Mamie Dorsey. She was bedridden. She had no children, her husband had died, and she almost had no family, but her door was open all the time. And so many people went to her for counseling that they finally brought a microphone to her bed, and she had a little Bible lesson.
Really?
She would teach on the radio for a while. But when I was in about the 11th grade, some friends and I decided we really wanted to pray for our friends. And I did not know Miss Dorsey then, but one of the friends said, why don't we go talk to Miss Dorsey? Well, this lady taught me so much about the Word of God and how to live it. And not only me, but she was instrumental in helping countless people get off alcohol and so forth and turn to the Lord. And we had a mighty move of revival in Enterprise when I was a teenager. And I think the people who were used were people that she had mentored. And finally, I got my whole family going to see her. My dad was a recovering alcoholic, and he went to her bedside and she taught him the Bible.
Is that right?
So I'd have to say, she taught me you can't excuse yourself because she was bedridden.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, well that's good. That's inspirational. Okay. So thank you for answering those questions. Now we close with one final question. I've got a stack of envelopes right here, and I'm going to let you choose one envelope, and you open it up and you read the question inside and share your answer. So you just pick one.
How did you meet your spouse?
Okay, that's a good one.
Okay, I had a really good friend in college at Samford. It was Howard College then. And she was one of my best friends. We would be roommates occasionally on the a cappella choir tours and so forth. And we tended a few times to date the same guys. And she told me one day that she thought I needed to meet her brother. So he was in the Air Force, and she arranged for us to meet. And I made her promise that we would still be friends if I didn't like her brother. And so we had a blind date just as I was finishing college. And we just sort of liked each other. But she kept arranging opportunities for us to be together. And she persuaded him to write me a letter after I moved to Ozark, and he was living in Evergreen. And she came to me and she said, why didn't you answer my brother's letter? And so I answered his letter, and she pushed and pushed until we fell in love.
Is that right?
So we have Sarah Brown to thank for...
Oh, that's right. Your brother-in-law was Dr. Bryant.
Dr. Sigurd Brown.
Okay, he was a professor at Samford.
And
That's right.
actually, the way Sarah met Sigurd, she was trying to do the same thing with him, and it fell for her.
Is that right? Well, that's good. That's a funny story.
So-
Miss Bobbie Sue, thank you so much for sharing with us and riding with us, and we appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.